So right now we got all these lawmakers talking about how they putting these bills forth. I told you about the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Asian caucus for police reform, right? So I decided to go through bill by bill and explain it to y'all why it's a crock of shit. And I'm going to also tell you who sponsored the bill so that you can call these people up and let them know that their bill is not enough, it's not sufficient, and you know for a fact that it's not going to protect Black people. So give them a call at their various phone numbers. You can find all of the information at bit.ly/NY Police Reform Bills with an S at the end. I'm sure it's written here. Okay, so you can go there, look at it, read line by line. I have my questions in red so that you can ask these very same questions to these politicians when you see them out here pretending like they're doing something for us. Call them out on their shit. When you see them, when you call them up on their phones, all of their phone lines, clog their phone lines. We may not have the $1.4 million that the PBA has, but they are supposed to protect us. At least we will have let these politicians know that they're not fooling anybody and they're not going to trick us by pissing on our heads and telling us that it's raining and that we can see through their bullshit.
Woo, you sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. Well, I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee, but I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will, but today I am still just a bill.
Gee, Bill, you certainly have a lot of patience and courage.
Well, I got this far. When I started, I wasn't even a bill. I was just an idea. Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed, so they called their local congressman, and he said, "You're right, there ought to be a law." Then he sat down and wrote me out and introduced me to Congress, and I became a bill. And I'll remain a bill until they decide to make me a law. I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I got as far as Capitol Hill. Well, now I'm stuck in committee, and I'll sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be a law. I hope and pray that they will, but today I am still just a bill.
Listen to those congressmen arguing. Is all that discussion and debate about you?
Yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Most bills never even get this far. I hope they decide to report on me favorably, otherwise I may die.
Die?
Yeah, die in committee. Oh, but it looks like I'm gonna live. Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Then I go to the Senate and the whole thing starts all over again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And if they vote for me on Capitol Hill, well, then I'm off to the White House where I'll wait in a line with a lot of other bills for the president to sign. And if he signs me, then I'll be a law. I hope and pray that he will. But today I am still just a bill.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be a law, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you become a law. It's not easy to become a law, is it?
No, but how I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
He signed your bill. Now you're a law.
Oh, yes.
Bill S369558, and this is the one that they're saying that they did some great strides in putting protections in place for us. The title of the bill is to act to repeal Section 50A of the Civil Rights Law related to personnel records of police officers and firefighters and correction officers. Okay, so this bill would repeal Section 50A of the Civil Rights Law. So 50A of the New York State Civil Rights Law permits law enforcement officers to refuse disclosure of personnel records used to evaluate performance toward continued employment or promotion. This exemption was adopted in 1976 by the legislature in order to prevent criminal defense lawyers from using such records in cross-examination of police witnesses during criminal prosecutions, okay? According to 2014 annual report by the State Committee on Open Government to the governor, the state legislator, this narrow exemption has been expanded in the courts to allow police departments to withhold from the public virtually any record that contains any information that conceivably could be used to evaluate the performance of that police officer. So basically, a law that was put in place to protect police officers from cross-examination is now used to cover up their crimes. The evolution of 50A has defeated the Freedom of Information Law's goal and accountability for transparency. So we're going to go down. Furthermore, the courts have the ability to protect against improper cross-examination and determine if police records are admissible at trial. And I have this question. You mean the racist courts in the racist justice system? So how is that going to work for us? What's your next step to fix that and to ensure that this actually works for Black people? Name us specifically. Without denial of public access to information regarding police activity created by 50A. All racist activity towards Black people needs to be public knowledge. This is me talking. No judge needed. That way we don't have to go to some judge that's already covering up deeds to the NYPD. We don't have to go to a judge that is already incarcerating Black people at astronomical rates. If you do harm to Black people as a police officer, your records need to be public. We need to be able to find them online. No judge needed. The 1976 enactment of 50A may have been necessary to safeguard law enforcement officers, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so at the end of this, it says, outright appeal of this statute will positively affect public trust in law enforcement. And I am saying that the only thing that would positively affect Black people's trust in law enforcement is punishment of these police officers that murder Black people. Bill 6670. This was sponsored by Brian A. Benjamin. He works at 163 West 125th Street in Harlem. His phone number is 212-222-7315. This bill is pertaining to police officers using strangulation, chokeholds, whatever, okay? So it says establishes the crime of aggravated strangulation for police officers or peace officers where such officer commits the crime of criminal obstruction or breathing or blood circulation or uses a chokehold or similar restraint and causes serious physical injury or death, and I'm adding, of a Black person, because you need to name us specifically, because when these laws are vague, we already got vague laws on the books, and they do not protect Black people. So if you want a law on the books that actually protects Black people, put our name in the book, just like you put gay people names in the civil rights laws just this morning. Okay. An act to amend the penal law in relation to establishing the crime of aggravated strangulation of a Black person, because they're calling this the Eric Garner law. Why don't you call it the strangulation law of Black people? I'm sure Eric Garner would prefer that, because he's already gone. So we don't need to protect Eric Garner anymore. We need to protect Black people. Section 1 identifies the act of the Eric Garner Anti-Chokehold on Black People Act. Section 2 amends the penal law by adding a new section, aggravated strangulation. Provides that a person commits aggravated strangulation when he or she, being a police officer, commits the crime of criminal obstruction of breathing or blood circulation as defined in section blah blah, and causes serious physical injury or death to another person. This offense shall be a Class C felony. First of all, we need to have a mandatory sentence attached to this. Don't just call it a Class C felony. I looked it up. A Class C felony, a Class C violent felony gives a penalty from 3.5 to 15 years. So I'm going to ask you a question. Which one do you think that they're going to give the police officers? You think they're going to give them the 3.5 or the 15? So we need to make this mandatory sentencing. Do not give these judges, these district attorneys like Ken Thompson, these wide range penalties. It needs to be mandatory sentence of 15 years. Ken Thompson, as I spoke about just a few minutes ago, the deceased Brooklyn district attorney that gave Peter Liang no jail time for shooting a Kai girlie in the staircase because he was scared.
Brooklyn District Attorney Kenneth Thompson is recommending house arrest but no jail time for ex-NYPD cop Peter Liang. He was convicted of fatally shooting an unarmed man in the stairwell of a housing project. Thompson argues there are mitigating circumstances that favor probation. The fact that Liang was a rookie cop with less than a year on the street, that he was patrolling a darkened stairwell to try and keep the residents of the pink houses safe, and that there's no evidence that he intended to kill 28-year-old Kai Gurley, who was 2 floors below. Liang fired one round that ricocheted off a wall and struck Gurley in the chest, killing him. He was violating NYPD protocol by having his finger on the trigger of his service weapon when there was no immediate threat posed to him or his partner, Sean Landau. Thompson suggests an appropriate sentence for Liang would be 6 months of house arrest, 500 hours of community service, and 5 years probation. Liang was fired from the force immediately after a Brooklyn jury convicted him of manslaughter February 11th.
Or this could be left in the hands of Letitia James, the Attorney General of the entire state of New York City, who opened a hotline to help Asian people voice their grievances for being called the Kung Fu Flu and all that. So do we trust either one of these 2 people to be able to exert actual penalties for these NYPD officers that murder us? I don't trust them. And I feel like you should call up, what's his name again? You should call up Senator Bryan and let him know that this bill don't mean anything unless you name us and call us specifically. And let's just say one or two of them are misguided, and they just need a little help reading the bills that they wrote, even though I don't have not near a law degree, okay? And I was able to ascertain that none of these bills are going to do shit for us. But let's just say they're a little misguided, and they need just a little help. They needed us to point it out in red. That's what we're here to do. So call them up and let them know, honey, you are misguided. Or call them up and let them know that they full of shit. Either way you want to do it is fine with me. Just call them up.
As black people, the real crime of the previous generations is they kept walking off the field before the damn battle was over. So you end up with all of these symbolic gestures.
A 100 years after you get free, you still getting fucked out of job and shot at by police. You see what I'm saying? This guy gets it. I like him. He's getting angry. Angry is good. Angry gets